Edifice of Trust podcast is a thoughtful discussion of today's current events from the perspective of America's founding principles. Welcome. From heart-pumping music to head-thumping commentary. During my morning workout at the gym the other day, I glanced up at one of the many TV monitors. I try to use my time on the elliptical trainer to zone out and think about what's going on in the world and what I'm going to write about next. But I do get distracted by the TVs. There's a lot of Fox News and HGTV on the monitors, but also, in this case, ESPN. The show this morning on ESPN was Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, and the captions on the monitor showed they were commenting about how awful it was that the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy, was not offered a job as a head coach for some other NFL team after the Chiefs' Super Bowl win. I had no idea who Eric Bieniemy was. I was wondering, why do they care if some assistant coach was not offered a head coaching job? This discussion went on for quite a while. And then I realized that these announcers wouldn't give a shit if some white guy wasn't offered a job. But if a black guy is not offered a job, then it must be because of racial animus. Sure enough, Mr. Bieniemy is a black man, and the show host asserted that his skin color was indeed the reason he was not elevated to a head coaching position. I could not follow all the commentary. Reading text while working out is difficult and throws off your workout. I did notice one caller into the show said that there could be other reasons why Mr. Bieniemy didn't leave the Chiefs, but by then I was finishing my cardio program and moved on to the weights. But I kept thinking. Some people look at everything through the lens of race. Some people are heavily invested in the continuation of a concept that America is a cesspit of systemic racism. The Washington Post lamented that there are only 3 black head coaches in the NFL and, quote, that needs to change. That needs to change because 60% of the players in the NFL are black, the Post asserts. But if blacks are about 12% of the U.S. population, the black players are way overrepresented, while black head coaches at 9% looks much more like America, as some people say. Maybe the question should be, why aren't they diversity, equity, and inclusion activists complaining about the lack of Asian players in the NFL? I am sure short Jewish guys are also underrepresented. Actually, the 6 Jews in the NFL represent 0.35% of all players, while Jews are 2.3% of the U.S. population. As it turns out, Asians are way underrepresented in the NFL, only 0.1%, while Pacific Islanders are way overrepresented, 1.7%, and Samoans especially overrepresented. The 30 Samoans in the NFL represent 1.7% of all players, but Samoans make up only 0.02% of the U.S. population. Another way to frame the question is, if the preponderance of blacks as players is due to their skills and abilities, why is the preponderance of white head coaches due to racism? The thought comes to mind. Those that can do, those that can't teach. The players on the field are there because the NFL is a meritocracy, and a meritocracy often yields disparate results. Asians and Jews are overrepresented in academic endeavors, but DEI activists insist on changing that so that college campuses and medical and legal professions look more like America. Can you imagine what the NFL would be like if it had to apply racial quotas to, quote, look more like America? Nobody would watch. Do you want the same for medical and legal professions, business boardrooms, etc.? There were 7 black head coaches in the NFL in 2018, almost 22%. So why are there only 3 now? because head coaches get fired if they don't win games, not because they're black. If Mr. Bieniemy is as good as the commentators say, he will get his chance to coach an NFL team, because the NFL is a meritocracy. Ponder that while you watch a brief message.
Don't forget that my Edifice of Trust books, Principled Policy, Edifice of Trust 2nd edition, In Defense of Principle, and The People's God are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks. Thank you.
Welcome back. The other thought that came to mind during my workout was the comments over Super Bowl weekend about this being the first Super Bowl featuring 2 black quarterbacks. But if the selection of quarterbacks in the Super Bowl was based solely on a racist percent of the total population, the odds of having 2 black quarterbacks would be about 70-1, or about 1.44%. Another thought: Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes is only half black. His mother is white, as was President Obama's. And since Mr. Mahomes' wife is also white, his kids are only 1/4 black. And Tiger Woods is not only the greatest black golfer ever, he's also the greatest Thai golfer ever, because his mother is from Thailand. And his son Charlie, who has all the makings of becoming a great golfer as well, is only 1/4 black, because his mother is Swedish. And by the way, all-American designer and home fixer-upper Joanna Gaines is of Korean, German, and Lebanese descent. The point that I am making is that it is getting harder and harder to put a person into a neat little ethnic or racial box. I come from a different era, but my son's wife is Hispanic and my son-in-law's brother is married to an Indian. Kids are getting all mixed up genetically. All you have to do is go to the grocery store to see families made up of many races and ethnicities. The number of mixed-race couples portrayed in TV advertisements has skyrocketed. They hardly existed a decade ago. The one-drop rule that made a single black ancestor made a person black is a holdover from the era of Jim Crow. The only people pushing this concept in the 21st century are the race-baiting black leaders and anti-racist activists that thrive on racial division and hate. People have been interbreeding, whenever the occasion arose, since prehistoric times. According to the one-drop rule, I'm a Neanderthal. Is that a qualified minority under federal guidelines? We may never achieve the colorblind society that would be the ideal for racial harmony that Martin Luther King dreamed of. Human beings are too flawed to achieve that level of perfection. But we do seem to be becoming a color-blurred society. Different races and ethnicities occurred because populations of humans were isolated from one another. Throw all sorts of people into the same pot, and you get all sorts of mixtures. Some people may think that all this blending of races and ethnicities is a bad idea. It used to be illegal, technically. Others may feel it is a good thing. I just think it is inevitable. Thank you for watching.